Before the cameras rolled, before the lights warmed his face, and before the world leaned in to listen, there was a father thinking about his daughters. Not about fame, not about headlines, not even about legacy in Hollywood, but about two young girls who might one day search for pieces of him in old clips and fading memories. And in that quiet, deeply human moment, Eric Dane made a decision that would transform what could have been just another interview into something profoundly personal, a message of love, strength, and presence for the children he cherishes most. For years, audiences have known Eric Dane as the confident, charismatic actor who brought unforgettable characters to life. Many still remember him as Dr. Mark McSteamy Sloan on Grey's Anatomy, where his charm and emotional depths captured millions of hearts. Others have followed his darker, more complex role as Cal Jacobs on Euphoria, where he portrayed a deeply flawed father navigating secrets and inner turmoil. But beyond the scripts, beyond the camera angles, beyond the carefully crafted scenes, Eric Dane is simply a dad. And that's the side of him he wanted the world, and especially his daughters, to see. In what many are calling one of his most heartfelt and vulnerable conversations, Eric Dane made it clear that this wasn't just an interview for publicity. It wasn't about promoting a project or polishing a public image. It was about creating something real, something lasting, something his daughters could one day watch and say, "That was Dad. That's who he truly was." As a father, he understands that time moves quickly. Children grow up. Memories blur. Moments pass before you even realize they're gone. And for someone who has lived much of his life in the public eye, he knows that the version of him seen on television isn't always the version that exists at home. Fame can distort reality. Characters can overshadow the man behind them. So he wanted to offer his daughters an experience of him, not as an actor, not as a celebrity, but as their father speaking openly and honestly. Throughout the interview, his tone carried a quiet sincerity. There was no dramatic performance. No grand speech. Just a man reflecting on life, love, mistakes, growth, and fatherhood. He spoke about how becoming a parent changed him in ways no role ever could. The intensity of protecting your children. The fear of not being enough. The determination to show up, even when life feels overwhelming. Eric Dane has faced his share of personal battles over the years. From public struggles with health and addiction to navigating the complexities of relationships under constant scrutiny, he has experienced both the highs and the humbling lows of life in Hollywood. And instead of hiding those experiences, he acknowledged them. Not to sensationalize his story, but to humanize it. Because one day, his daughters may hear stories. They may read headlines. They may come across opinions from strangers who think they know everything about their father. And in that moment, he wanted there to be something authentic waiting for them. A space where they could hear his voice directly. Where they could see his expressions, his pauses, his emotions, unfiltered and real. It's powerful when a parent chooses transparency over perfection. In a world obsessed with curated images and flawless reputations, Eric Dane offered something different. Honesty. He didn't claim to have all the answers. He didn't pretend to be a perfect father. Instead, he embraced the messy, complicated truth of being human. And that vulnerability might just be the greatest gift he could give his daughters. He talked about love, not the glamorous, cinematic version, but the steady, everyday kind. The love that shows up for school events. The love that sits quietly during tough conversations. The love that apologizes when it's wrong. The love that keeps trying. And perhaps what made the interview so emotional was the unspoken understanding that time is fragile. None of us truly know how much of it we have. So when someone chooses to sit down and intentionally document their thoughts, their values, their heart, it carries weight. For Eric Dane, this wasn't about saying goodbye. It wasn't framed as a final chapter. It was about preservation. About making sure that if life ever creates distance through time, circumstances, or even misunderstanding, there would always be a piece of him accessible to the two people who matter most. Viewers watching the interview may have tuned in expecting celebrity insight. Instead, they witnessed fatherhood in its purest form. A man aware of his imperfections, but deeply committed to love. A man who has played powerful, complicated fathers on screen, yet understands that the most important role he will ever have doesn't come with a script. There's something incredibly touching about a parent wanting their children to experience them. Not just remember them, but experience them. To hear their laughter. To see the warmth in their eyes. To understand the intentions behind their choices. To know, without doubt, that they were loved fiercely. It's a reminder that beyond every public figure is a private world. Beyond every headline is a home. And beyond every character is a person trying to navigate life just like the rest of us. In many ways, Eric Dane's interview transcends celebrity culture. It becomes universal, because at its core it's about legacy, not in awards or accolades, but in connection. It asks a question that resonates with parents everywhere. If my children one day look for me in the past, what will they find? Will they find perfection? Or will they find honesty? Will they find distance? Or will they find love? Eric Dane chose love. He chose presence. He chose to speak in a way that ensures his daughters will always have access to his voice, his heart, and his truth. And maybe that's what makes this story so compelling. It's not dramatic in the traditional Hollywood sense. There's no scandal, no shocking twist. Just a father quietly doing something extraordinary, thinking ahead, thinking deeply, and thinking about how his children might one day need reassurance that they were always his greatest priority. As the interview came to a close, there wasn't a grand finale. No swelling music. No scripted ending. Just the lingering feeling that something meaningful had been shared. Something lasting. Because long after roles fade and shows end, long after fans move on to the next big series, what remains are the relationships we build and the love we leave behind. For Eric Dane, that love lives in two daughters who will one day sit down, press play, and see their father exactly as he wanted them to, honest, imperfect, strong, and deeply devoted. And in that moment, the interview will become more than a recording. It will become a memory.